Oh my goodness, this is hilarious. This guy said, this guy said, "You should tag Billy." What do you mean I should tag Billy? If I tag Billy, he might end up trying to sue me. So I don't want any issues with Billy because Billy is getting lawyers involved. He's getting lawyers involved. Where are you guys watching from, fellas? Yo, Idol Killer, be careful, man. People are suing people over lost debates. I mean, how do you lose a debate and then sue somebody? I mean, YouTube is getting a little bit too crazy for me, man. It really is. It really is. I have to give a couple of shout outs. You know what I'm saying? I have to give a couple of shout outs to a couple of people. You know what I'm saying? I gotta give a couple of shout outs. I mean, yeah, this is Drake. This is Drake vibes, man. It really, really is. It really, really is. The footage doesn't exist anymore. So if you guys are looking for the debate doesn't actually even exist. How long am I? Maybe an hour or so, maybe an hour. You missed your start time. Hey man, we're here. We're here. But my friends, oh my gosh. I don't know if you guys heard or not. I don't know if you guys heard or not. And this is very dangerous because I've beaten my fair share of people in debates. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not. But I've cooked my fair share of people. And I hope I don't get any lawsuits. I hope I don't get any of that because this is ridiculous. I ain't never seen nothing like that. You get cooked, and this is a very arrogant guy. You know what I'm saying? Always attacks the Bible. He thinks he knows it all. He brings these dumb arguments going, "Oh yeah, sun god and all of that stuff." He's one of those guys. I mean, it's bad. God bless you, just smell. It's bad. Now, I don't have the debate to review anymore because he took it down. Or I should say, I do have the debate. I do have it. I have it in a secret file that was given to me by a man that will not be named because I don't want him to catch a lawsuit. See how terrible this is? This is very, very bad. Somebody weaseled the debate over to me. All right? You guys are going to see some of the debate. I have some of it. Okay? And I'll review some of that debate and I'll go over it. The guy was terrible. The guy was terrible. And somebody had to smuggle the debate because the debate doesn't exist anymore. Because the man got sued. Billy Carson got sued. Got sued. I mean, it's ridiculous. It really, really is. Now I have the footage myself. Okay? Because somebody that's very connected that I can't mention his name. See, I can't mention his name because if I mention his name, he could get a lawsuit, for embezzling debates. This is ridiculous. I mean, this is bad. This is really, really bad. So how about we do something real quick? How about we do this? Let me show you guys how I even found out about this, okay? Because there's a lot that goes on with this. Let me tell you guys how I found out about this. Okay. First guy that I found all this information from was Ruslan, right? Ruslan did a video talking about this, and I didn't pay it much mind. You know what I'm saying? This is probably a more recent video. I mean, I don't know when I saw it. I think it was yesterday or what have you. I think Ruslan made more videos on this. If he did not, then it is what it is. This was the one. But I saw something, whether it was a short, I don't know what it was, but I saw Ruslan did something, right? And a friend of mine sent it to me. A friend of mine said, "Yo, Ruslan did a reaction to this," right? So maybe it was on his second channel. I don't know where it was, right? But in the reaction, his buddy here, who's a total professional. This brother right here, the brother right here, not Ruslan. Ruslan's co-host, total professional, great YouTube channel. You guys should check it out. He was basically breaking down, and I don't know
And this is where we're at. So
video,
we're gonna play this. According to the
but he was
Sinai Bible,
breaking down
Jesus wasn't crucified.
how this guy was probably just a wacko, right? He was in that not that he was a wacko, but he was in a charismatic wacko camp. You know those people that are always prophesying and you'll make $1 million and all of these stuff. I think this is this video. This guy made some
It's not.
this guy right here made some excellent points. So you guys should definitely catch this video, right? But this is before the lawsuit. So this is before the lawsuit. So they made this video. I mean, I don't even know if Ruslan is safe. You know what I'm saying? And they basically broke down. So I saw this and I'm like, was it really that bad? I didn't believe. I was kind of like doubting Thomas. I just didn't believe. But Ruslan kept saying it was bad. He was making mistakes, all of these things. I said, nah. I had the debate on my saved files, right? So I had the debate saved on my YouTube. When you like a video, there's like a likes list. And with this likes list, you can see all the videos that you liked. And so I had originally liked the debate. And I was like, yo, I'm gonna watch it. But when I was watching it, I was like, yo, I'll catch it later. I have infinite amount of time. You know what I'm saying? And this is why people suffer in life, because you think you always have tomorrow. No, tomorrow's not promised. You can die tomorrow, my friends. You can die tomorrow. I want every single person to know that you can die tomorrow. And I thought I had tomorrow with this debate. So anyways, I see this brother here reacting to it. So let me show you this. Let me show you guys this brother here who was reacting to this, okay? So give me 1 second. I'm going to show you guys the person that I saw reacting to this debate. All right? So give me 1 second. Where's this guy at? There we go. So then I see this guy reacting to it. I told him I would give him. Now, I can't speak too much about Artur because I don't want him to get sued or anything or any kind of lawsuits or anything like that. But this man, Artur, had 100 concurrent viewers watching this video. And I was like, yo, what is Artur up to? Because Artur has some good takes. And I see Artur write, Billy Carson cooked. I'm like, well, this is Artur. You know what I'm saying? This is a man that's very, very respectful, very professional. He doesn't really use slang like that, like barbecue, I'm gonna cook you. So I was like, is it really that bad? And as you can see, the red
Indication because in history we go to the primary source.
Artur did a review of this debate, which I'm pretty sure if Arthur's not careful, it could end up getting flagged or something because this guy's out of control, right? So I watched some of that and I was like, you know what? It's about time that I myself watch this debate. Now, I can't speak too much about Artur. And the reason I can't speak too much about Artur is because I don't want Artur to get in trouble. So, Artur did me a lot of favors, but I can't, unfortunately, I can't share what Artur did for me, in regard to this situation. So I have to stay very quiet. Okay? Now, I click on the debate. I go, finally. I'm gonna watch this debate. I get amped. I'm excited. And then I click the link and this happens. Let me show you guys what happens. Let me show you guys what happened when I click that link. Let me see if I can find it. It should be somewhere here. And you guys are going to be like, whoa, JP, like that's ridiculous. Ridiculous it is, my friend. Ridiculous it is. So here it is. Boom. Now watch this. I come to watch the debate. And check this out. Look at this. Unavailable. All right, unavailable. So I'm like, why would this guy take the debate down? Well, check this out. Check this out, fellas. Because this is ridiculous. Let me show you guys something real quick. The first time in history, my friends. So this made history. I want you guys to know that this made history. Okay? Because for the first time in history, look at what we now have to deal with. Check this out. Yo, you stupid brother Marlon. All right. So for the first time in history, Billy Carson lost to me in a debate and is now suing me. Suing you. But that can't be true. This is a debate. You win some, you lose some. I couldn't understand what I was hearing. So this man made this video. And let's watch it. This is the man, the cook, the black dude that you see in my thumbnail.
Billy Carson is attempting to sue me. For those of you who don't know, I was invited to interact with Billy on a podcast that he agreed to come on. It was not his podcast, where he was notified beforehand who I was and what we'd be talking about. After that debate took place, Billy attempted to suppress the footage. That didn't really work. I've released clips from that conversation. Well, Billy does not want you to see those clips and has sent me a cease and desist letter. I was really hoping that this could be an opportunity for Billy to learn, to see the major errors that he's been repeating and turn this into a learning experience. I even offered to follow up with Billy in order to show him how and where he could find accurate and credible resources in order to make sure that what he was saying was verifiably correct going forward in the future, so he and his audience could learn and proceed knowledgeably. Billy did not agree. But unfortunately for Billy, agreeing to a debate, losing that debate, and feeling embarrassed about that loss does not constitute legitimate grounds to litigate. Billy, I will agree to all the terms and conditions of the cease and desist letter that you have sent me if you agree to run it back, sit down with me in person, and have another discussion. This is my formal response.
Bible
Interesting, right, guys? So you guys see that. The man is suing, all right? The man is suing because he, once again, lost the debate. Now, let's actually see some of this debate, since I actually have some of the footage due to a brother that I will not mention. Okay, so we can go over some of this and see some of the arguments that he made until this debate becomes available. All right, so let's catch this up. Let's see where this is at. All right, so let's see, because I uploaded it somewhere. And you know, if any of you guys end up watching this debate, it's not because I shared it or anything like that. You know, once again, this is all alleged. Let's just say it's all alleged. You know, he didn't actually lose the debate. He allegedly lost the debate. Okay, we gotta be careful here with all of our legal terms. Nobody tell James White that you can sue if you lose. Tim Barber and Leighton Flowers are gonna be in trouble. That's funny. All right, check this out. Let me see if I can somehow. All right, you know what? You guys can't. I mean, if you guys find it, you find it. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. All right, here we are. So this is a debate that I got the footage of. And the debate starts really, really ridiculous. This is a really ridiculous debate. I mean, in regard to actually being competitive. I mean, this guy smacks Billy around all over the place. I mean, it's a total smackdown what happens. It's not even fair. It's not even close. And this guy, the black dude, I mean, he brings up ridiculous claims. I mean, we're talking about him saying that the book of Barnabas is actually scriptures. He brings up, I believe, Horus, and he brings up all of these things. Okay, so he brings up all of these things, and he thinks he's gonna cook. He goes, this particular Bible that I have doesn't actually teach the resurrection of Christ. I mean, this is ridiculous. Let's check this out.
Solid friend, great character, businessman. He's been on Elevating Beyond last time, sharing your whole story behind the story. And what you hugely special,
but simply understanding more about advanced technologies and then finding the link between advanced technology and ancient civilizations, and going on a really a 25-year, what's that, 27-year now, goodness, trek around the world. Been around the world now over 18 times. Last year spent 9 months in hotels.
I remember.
As you know, you're my witness, leaving this big old mansion behind and not going home at all. And
Travel grind.
traveling nonstop to these ancient sites to get the information hands-on.
Yeah, so this is the type of dude that says, "Oh, I know how the pyramids are made. You know, I'm deep. It's your third eye." He's one of those guys. You know what I'm saying? Now, this was very, very bad. If I were to try to give you an example, homie knocked Billy out in the first round. Like, this man was just making things up in Fairyland. And this man has a lot of subscribers. This man has a lot of viewers. And I mean, the fact that he tried to like make the debate disappear before he even sued, the fact that the debate has to be taken down, I mean, this is very, very concerning. I mean, I'm done debating. That's it. Whatever debate you've ever seen me have, that's the last of it. Because I cannot afford a lawsuit. I can't. I mean, brothers, I mean, you're telling me that if I beat somebody down in a debate, that's grounds for me to get sued? I don't understand. I'm done. I cannot afford a debate. Or imagine you have a good performance in a debate, and then you're told to take the debate down. Imagine all of those things. I mean, this is bad. This is bad. I mean, talk about taking your ball and going home. You ever play basketball and then you cook somebody in a game and then you just go, what? Then he goes, well, F y'all, I'm taking my basketball and leaving. You ever had one of those situations? I've had them. And now no one can play basketball because that person lost. Or you're playing NBA 2K online and then you're winning. You got a nice little lead and then they just disconnect the wires and then, the connection's unstable. You ever had that? Or you're playing Madden and then you throw a touchdown and you win and then out of nowhere your player has lost connection. I mean, this is crazy.
Okay. And that was weird. I just heard a little chant. Wes, you there? Too easy. To be connected to life and to my level, and it was like, see, my man, I think we have to.
In my video Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible.
Jesus was not crucified, or I know as to what or how or why they believe that. I'm curious for you guys both, and if you want to, I guess, go first, Billy, as to how you came about like the findings where it seems that Jesus was not crucified, or that's not accurate.
Sure. And in my videos, and if you listen to the podcast, the statement is according to the Sinai Bible. Okay, according to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible. That Bible predates the King James version of the Bible, and
Now you already know that's a load of baloney, and I'm just being very nice saying baloney. You're telling me that there are Bibles out there that have the Gospels, and Jesus wasn't crucified in those Gospels? Dang. Now that is fairyland. That is fairyland. I don't want to interrupt too much, but this guy he says so many ridiculous things that I don't even know what to tell you, man. I mean, he says so many ridiculous things that I could pause this video every 5 seconds he says the word. I mean, we all met this kind of guy before. We've all met this type of guy before. All of us. You know, the guy that says, I know how pyramids were made. The guy that says, your eyes are closed. You got to wake up and have some kind of... but these guys never debate, and this is why. This is why. I mean, imagine that. You just wake up one day and you go, Jesus doesn't really exist, or Jesus was a good man. He was just consciousness. I mean, this is the level of ridiculous that this brother is right here, man. The level of ridiculous. You know, Jesus is just consciousness. He's not a man that's going to come back. I mean, these guys are terrible. Then he goes, oh, I have a lot of studies. I mean, I'm going to just let y'all watch for yourselves. I'm going to try to stay quiet for 2 minutes. For 2 minutes. Okay? Because if I don't stay quiet, we'll never get past anything in this video.
The text there actually is about 12 to 14,000 differences between the Sinai Bible and the King James Version of the Bible, which came much later. You know, and then also one of the things that were interesting is that they discovered the book of Jesus' wife, which is at the Harvard Seminary, which according to some scholars, that's a little controversial, but they claim that this is an accurate record that Jesus may have even been married, which then, you know, adds more, if that's true, it adds more to the hypothesis that maybe he wasn't crucified. I just personally believe that Jesus was an amazing human being. I don't think that he was the Son of God in the sense that he's God, but that we're all gods. As he said, ye are gods, and that we're to do greater things than him. And I just personally believe that the return of the Christ is the return of the Christ consciousness. When we can all achieve a certain level of knowledge, wisdom, passion, understanding, empathy, love that he came to this planet with, and we get that in our mind and our conscience, and we can act on those incredible emotions and that understanding, that the whole world's going to transform instantaneously. And I think at the second coming is the coming of the Christ consciousness to the planet, not a human being flying back to Earth to save people.
Now, in the hood, now I'm from New York. And Nick, you're from New Jersey. Don't these guys think they're mad smart in the hood? If you're from the hood, we all know a couple of dudes like this. If you're from the hood. Nick, you're from Jersey. You know what I'm talking about. These brothers that think that they it. These kind of brothers right here. They come over here, they spew this nonsense. Talking about, there we go. There we go. Nick knows what I'm talking about. You country people don't really got to deal with brothers like this. You know what I'm saying? If you're from New York, you're from the hood, there are brothers like this all over the place. You know what I'm saying? There are ninjas like this all over the place. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just simply saying ninjas. You know what I'm saying? Because in the hood, we know what we call these dudes. You know what I'm saying? And they call me that as well. You know, I'm from New York, but you get the point. We all know that kind of guy. Oh, yeah, Christ is really just a consciousness. What else did he say? He said Christ was actually married. Where the heck is he pulling that from? Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene. What is this, freaking 2011? Like, these arguments have been refuted but in the year. I mean, bro, 10 years ago, these arguments were refuted with the Mary Magdalene nonsense. Now this man's going to bring it all up thinking he's cooking. Mary Magdalene. Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene. The secret books. What secret books? Oh, the book of Barnabas. Yeah. I mean, this guy, man, I mean, for all the studying that he does, I mean, this guy has no business debating. By the way, this is fair use. So don't send me a letter trying to sue me. You know what I'm saying? Especially this brother right here, who I destroyed in a debate. I hope he doesn't send me a letter. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's carry on. I love that brother, by the way. But you know, it is what it is.
That's just my personal understanding of how I perceived it over many, many.
I'll stay quiet for another 2 minutes, so I'll talk again in the 12:39 mark.
Years of going through this information and going through all this text.
And Wes, I'm gonna let you respond to that. And again, I mean, this is everyone listening to the show. You know, I'm always like, challenge everything. Learn to critically think and continue to come to your conclusions. Even with Jesus, I'm not personally even waiting on that he has to come back to. I already know I'm, like I said, that strength of God and consciousness is already, I can tap into that right now. So you don't have to wait for him to come back. For those that believe he does, to actually have that like next level of what that's supposed to mean. But Wes, go ahead on for what Billy was talking about, I think with a book in the Harvard Museum, and I heard something about Jesus's wife, which that's, yeah.
Yeah, well, first let me say, I think it's really cool to not just be in the room proverbially with you, Billy, but be able to interact with you. Because I wish I could be there in person. Unfortunately, Toronto, Canada is a long way away from Florida. It's a little bit of a jaunt. But I really appreciate the fact that you seem to have investigated to a certain degree some of these facts. Do you mind if I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
When you say the Sinai Bible, what are you referring to specifically?
It's the biblical text that was written. It made it into you can actually look it up on Amazon. It's a Bible called, I have a version at home. It's called the Sinai Bible, right, from Mount Sinai. I'm assuming it's the mountain that they're referencing there. But they put together their own version of the biblical text prior to the King James Version being put out.
Sure. So when you refer to the Sinai Bible, would you be referring to Codex Sinaiticus? Like the codex that comes? Okay. That's why I was trying to get some clarification, because so you can actually go and see Codex Sinaiticus is at the British Library. So you can go and see it. It's on display. And the British Library has actually digitized the entire manuscript. So I work with manuscripts in my linguistic work. I'm an expert on early Christian scribal culture, and particularly in Greek and Coptic manuscripts. I actually have a facsimile. So I have a photocopy that was done by the British Library of Codex Sinaiticus that I work with in my office. So I have it here. And the only reason I asked for clarification is because I want to make sure that what I'm addressing is actually what you mean.
Gotcha.
And not addressing something else. Because the Codex Sinaiticus in particular is just it's a 4th century Greek manuscript.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from approximately between 325 and 350 AD. And its text of the Gospels reads almost identical to the modern Greek text that we develop translations from. So my curiosity is just simply in kind of exploring, when you say that it denies the crucifixion or that the crucifixion isn't there, I mean, I can go on right now, Codex Sinaiticus, and I can look up the end of, say, Matthew 27,
mm-hmm.
where it has Jesus being crucified. And that's in Codex Sinaiticus, or, the John 19, or any of the.
Now the man's going through his phone, going, well, was I wrong about this? Yeah, you were absolutely wrong. And rule number 1, you never pull out your cell phone during a debate. You know what I'm saying? That's very, very rude, sir. Can you guys imagine if I'm debating somebody and I just pull up my phone and, and I just start. Sorry, some people are blowing up my phone. But you know what I'm saying? Imagine I just did this in the middle of a debate. You see what I just did? Somebody blew up my phone just now, and I didn't respond. But, well, I actually looked at the text. But how disrespectful was that to you guys? I mean, we're in the middle of a debate review, and I just pulled up my phone. I mean, what is wrong with me? I'm such a hypocrite, right? But at least I'm not debating somebody. I mean, this guy is out of control. Let's carry on.
The other one. So I think my confusion is that it doesn't read any differently. So actually, are you able to pull up a website with the viewers or listeners or whatever?
I'm looking for it right now to make sure I have the version that I'm looking at.
While he's pulling that up too, like I keep saying to all the people that aren't scientists traveling the world and linguists, I don't even know how to pronounce it the right way, like me. What I thought was how many were able to cross-reference throughout history, ability to answer, and also I felt was a good concept of proof. And then I want Billy to answer, and also I'm just curious, like the Sinai Bible, where was that piece
I found
discovered?
the text where I was referencing. Actually, I was misquoted. I misquoted there. It's the Gospel of Barnabas.
He said it's the Gospel of Barnabas. Now, who in the early church, whoever took the Gospel of Barnabas serious? I mean, that's a forgery. Everybody knows that. So he just tried to make a claim. Now, if this dude was in the hood, people would think that he's cooking. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it's not in the Sinai Bible. And people would just listen to that and run with that. But then the minute you fact check these guys, man, and he's a clown, respectfully, he is a clown. You see, a lot of people can't say that, but I can say it. Let me tell you why I'm saying, because I'm not a pastor. You know what I mean? I'm not a pastor, and this guy's a clown. So I have every right to call a clown a clown. This guy's a clown. He tried to pull a quick one. Then when he was caught, then he tried to run over to the Gospel of Barnabas, which the Gospel of Barnabas, come on now, man. Come on, ninja. My ninja, what's going on, my ninja? Like, come on, how ridiculous. I mean, you might as well just pull up a Dragon Ball Z comic book and say Jesus wasn't crucified in the Dragon Ball Z comic book. That would make just as much sense as the Book of Barnabas. It's a forgery. Everybody knows that. Little kids know that. You learn that in apologetics, first grade apologetics. But you think you're deep? You're not deep, brother. You're not deep at all. My apologies, my friends. My apologies for pulling up my phone. My apologies. Actually, I was reading the Gospel of Barnabas. That's why I pulled up my phone. That's why I pulled up my phone. The next time we debate polygamy, Judah, I'm going to have my phone like this the whole time. I'm just kidding, brother. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, let's carry on.
Okay, yeah, well, so that's good. So let's deal with that too, because I've actually worked with, there are two manuscripts of the Gospel of Barnabas. The Gospel of Barnabas is a really...
Please don't make fun of my accent, sir. Please. Please. Okay? Barnabas, Sinai. Yeah, brother, please. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's carry on. Pizza. I mean, we get it. We get it. All right, let's carry on.
Interesting document because it is a known forgery. And so that's why I think it's important to get to these sources. So at the very start of the Gospel of Barnabas, which we only have two copies of, one is in Italian and one is in Spanish, we see right off the bat that the Gospel of Barnabas, not to be confused with either the Epistle of Barnabas or the Acts of Barnabas, which are two apocryphal documents from the 2nd century, but the Gospel of Barnabas in particular, we know it's a forgery because it does things like in chapter 92, it says that Jesus spent 40 days on Mount Sinai, and then he came to the Jordan River and he walked to Jerusalem.
Sigh 9. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's carry on.
But Mount Sinai is more than a week's journey away from Jerusalem, and neither Mount Sinai...
I could say it too, Mount Sinai. You know what I'm saying? I could say it, but it doesn't sound as cool, you know? I like saying Sinai, you know what I'm saying? You know, put the little New York flavor in it. So let's carry on.
Nor Jerusalem are close to the Jordan River. So never mind there not being a route from the Jordan River to like around Mount Sinai or going to Jerusalem. But there are internal problems with the Gospel of Barnabas, which indicate that it shows no actual indication of evidence of coming from or even having knowledge of 1st century Jewish understanding. It actually says Jesus is the Christ, but not the Messiah, which indicates that whoever the author is, he didn't know that those were the same words. And I think a bigger problem is that the Gospel of Barnabas actually paraphrases Dante's Inferno, which was written in 1314. So there's a lot of internal evidences that disqualify the Gospel of Barnabas, never mind the fact that we don't have any evidence of it prior to the 14th century, and none in any other language other than Middle Age Italian Italian and Spanish. But the internal...
Italian and Spanish. Italian and Spanish. This man is quoting an Italian fake Bible, saying that Jesus wasn't crucified in an Italian Spanish Bible, my friends. Yo, bro. That man was reading a Spanish book, bro. An Italian Spanish book. Saying, mind you, Jesus didn't get crucified in those books. Therefore, it didn't happen. Now that is ludicrous.
Content of the Gospel of Barnabas disqualifies it from being ancient. And then the fact that it's doing things like paraphrasing Dante, or it also refers to a rule of the time of Jubilee, which was changed in the Middle Ages from what it was in the biblical year of Jubilee. And it goes with the Middle Ages concept, not the ancient concept. So I think what I'm getting at is, so I'm a historian, and I deal with sources. So when I'm looking at sources, I want to make sure that I have a methodology by which I approach any type of source. So if there is something that denies the crucifixion, I want to make sure that I'm analyzing it and that the methodology by which I analyze it actually reveals that the content can be accurately tied to the event. So if we're talking about, say, Codex Sinaiticus, that's in the 4th century. Now that is, I would agree with you, Billy, our oldest copy of the Bible in the sense of cover to cover, Genesis to Revelation copy of the Bible.
Right.
The problem is that we have individual copies of all 4 Gospels going back hundreds of years before Codex Sinaiticus. So I have a facsimile behind me of...
I mean, this was a I'm a Christian man, so I can't say the language, but this was a AZZ kicking. This is what this was, a AZZ kicking. I mean, not only did he tell him we have manuscripts to go back, the man said, I have the manuscripts. He said, not only do we have the manuscripts to go way back, I have them right behind me. You can't recover from that. That's why he's trying to sue him. The man did too much. You see, he should have never said he had the manuscripts. He wouldn't be in the midst of a lawsuit right now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I heard. He said that he had a piece because no, I heard. That's ridiculous. Well, he has pieces of it, Chris. He has pieces of it, not the whole thing. From what I saw in the debate, he had pieces of it that he helped figure out in a museum somewhere. We'll see that in a bit. But bro, that's a big flex. I mean, that's a big flex. This is why he's being sued. I hope that this man learns that when you debate, you gotta allow your opponent to breathe. You know what I'm saying? Let the man breathe. Let him think that let him think that he won, or let him think that he let's put it this way. Let him think that he's slightly breaking even. Chris, he actually has something. I'll show you in a bit. Be patient. He actually has a manuscript that he put together. You'll see in a bit. But my friends, this is bad. This is bad. I mean, this is very, very bad. I would never debate that guy in my life, because the man's gonna pull the very sources he's quoting. Now watch. Look at what this guy pulls out. Watch this.
P66. This is a late 2nd century copy of the Gospel of John. I work with this particular manuscript. I can just show the screen right here. This is an almost complete copy of the Gospel of John. And it
Is that the
has the
papyro by
crucifixion.
any chance?
Yeah,
that
so
a word that I just
papyrus
made
is
up?
just the what it's made out of.
So material it's on.
I got that from Chat GPT, by the way.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so
guys. I'm just
I
trying
can
to sound
actually-
smart for a second.
I have that papyrus at home.
Oh, that's
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, so I'll show you this. So the documents.
Well, let's be very clear. He had an original old copy, like one of those historic copies that were translated over, But let's carry on.
You actually see on my bookshelf behind me are facsimile papyri that I've made. So when I was in Egypt last summer, I went and I got made for me some papyrus sheets. And so I take these papyrus sheets, which are made from the papyrus plant, and then when I go and I look at actual manuscripts, so I was at the University of Philadelphia last summer, and I went and I saw a document called P1, which is a 3rd century fragment of the beginning of the Gospel of Matthew. And so what I did is I sat down with that original and I produced a facsimile. So I copied the text. First of all, I cut it out with an X-Acto knife in not the original 3rd century one on my papyrus. I cut out with an X-Acto knife this guy, and then I copied the text transcriptionally on the front and the back. So papyrus is just simply, it's what it's made out of.
Yeah.
And so there's categorizing systems, and the standard one is called the Gregory Alland
Come on, man. That's not fair. I mean, this man's Mike Tyson. I mean, he knocked the man out in his first statement. Put the man to sleep. Billy is asleep right now. Billy's right now. He's knocked out. Put the man to sleep. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, if this man debates like this, he's gonna continue to get sued. Heck, I might sue him myself. I might drop a lawsuit on this man after what he just did to this brother right here. I might drop a lawsuit. Get myself a couple of dollars after what he did to this brother right here. This is white and black crime all over the place, brothers. Like, this is what this is. Like, if we're gonna give lawsuits, let's just keep it 100 around here, right? How ridiculous are we gonna get? Right? How ridiculous are we gonna get? Let's all sue the man. That's my narrative. My narrative is white on black crime. That's my narrative. That's what I'm suing him on. All right. That's gonna be my narrative. All right. Let's carry.
categorizing system. And so sometimes you'll see when manuscripts are mentioned, they'll have a GA and then a number behind it. If it's made of papyrus, you simply abbreviate the word papyrus to P, and then you have the numbering system. So P66, what I showed you earlier, that's this on the categorizing system. It's the 66th.
You know dang well this man don't know what the heck he's talking about. This guy's shaking his head like this. You know he don't know what the heck he's talking about. He's going,
manuscript.
Look.
So P66, what I showed you earlier, that's this on the categorizing system. It's the 66th manuscript that was put into the system. It's from the Gospel of John. I also
he don't know what he talking about, man. He don't know what he talking about, especially after he tried to pull the book of Barnabas.
Have P46 and P47 on my shelf, which includes all 4 Gospels and Acts from the 2nd and 3rd centuries. So the only hesitation I have with what you said, Billy, is that we have single copies of the Gospels that can be dated to the 2nd century that all do have the crucifixion. And so if we're relying on something like the Gospel of Barnabas, which is not just like, it's not that there's debate about it, it's that it's a known forgery. I mean, no one's referring to the Gospel of Barnabas as anything other than.
If you say it's a known forgery, yes, but I'm going to go with that. Let's talk about the Old Testament.
If you say it's a forgery, I'm going to go with that. What? Brother, one of the main reasons you're not a Christian is because you believe Jesus didn't get crucified. Now it's whatever. It's whatever. It's no wonder this man's getting sued, and I'm suing him as well. So I want everybody who knows this man to know that I will be suing him as well. Let's all make some money. Let's all make some money. Because this was a beating. This was a beating. All right? I mean, how do you have a worldview, live your life dependent on that worldview? You say that Jesus potentially had wives. You say that Jesus potentially never got crucified because he's consciousness. And all of this based on forgeries. An Italian and Spanish forgery. And then when you're confronted, oh yeah, let's just move on from this. No, we can't move on from this, my brother. But this is why he's going to get sued. You see the brother over there that's beating on Billy? Because notice I haven't even said his name this whole time. I think I'd said it one more. I think I said it once because I don't want to get any enemies on this channel because this brother has a lot of enemies. What he just did to this man. But this is going to be the reason he gets sued right now. You see how he's drinking his coffee? You see those eyes? You guys are about to see why he's getting sued. Because he did not let the man move on. He said, wait a minute, didn't you say Jesus had wives? And after this, that's when I said, I'm going to sue him myself. Watch this.
A little bit leading up into the New
Well,
Testament.
hold on, because do you mind if I address the Gospel of Jesus' wife?
Sure, go ahead.
What was her name again? I'm like trying to write notes like I know what I'm doing, but I'm just curious.
So the Gospel of Jesus' wife doesn't actually mention. So oftentimes what happens is that the text of the Gospel of Jesus' wife is kind of paralleled with the Gospel of Philip, which mentions that that Jesus would kiss Mary Magdalene on the mouth. And so those are kind of used in
How does he know your own sources better than you do? You're supposed to be the heretic. You're supposed to be the charlatan. You're supposed to be all these things. And how does your opponent know your own sources better than you do? How does your own opponent know that it's forgeries and you don't? How does your opponent know it was Spanish and Italian and you don't? And how does your opponent about to school you in regard to Jesus having wives?
in parallel is that the text of the Gospel of Jesus' wife is kind of paralleled with the Gospel of Philip, which mentions that Jesus would kiss Mary Magdalene on the mouth. And so those are kind of used in parallel to kind of for this argument that Jesus was married. So the Gospel of Jesus' wife is in the Harvard Library. However, the reason we know it's also not legitimate is because even though the manuscript, the papyrus that it's on, was carbon dated to the 4th century, the text was actually copied from a PDF version of the Gospel of Thomas known as Grandin's Interlinear. And there was a mistake in the Coptic text of Grandin's Interlinear that was copied into the Gospel of Jesus' wife. So we know that this is not a legitimate document, even though the papyrus is ancient, and this happens a lot with forgeries. I have a couple of friends who have actually worked on projects that have revealed forgeries within Dead Sea Scroll manuscripts and within other ancient Christian papyri. But the reason why we know the Gospel of Jesus' wife and Karen King, who kind of vouched for it, and kind of she lost a lot of credibility, unfortunately, for her, and she's admitted that it's a fake as well, was because we can tie it directly to not copying from an ancient text, but actually copying from an online version of the Gospel of Thomas in a PDF form, and the mistake on that PDF form was copied into the text of that was borrowed in the phraseology of Jesus' wife. So I just point that out is, once again, with our sourcing, I think we need to make sure that we're going towards not just early sources, but actually credible sources. And unfortunately, neither the Gospel of Barnabas nor the Gospel of Jesus' wife are credible sources in terms of actually, and agreed upon by not just the vast majority of scholarship, but I don't know anybody in the field of papyrology, paleography, historiography, who actually refers to these documents as being legitimate.
That's fair enough. I can respect that. So let's go into the Old Testament.
That's fair enough. I can respect that. I mean, bro, you can't respect that. No, brother, that's not fair enough. That's not fair enough. Swing back, bro. Swing back. Take a swing, brother. Make something up. What do you mean fair enough? This is why you're suing the man. I mean, bro, this man is battering you all over the place. This is a complete knockout. This is a complete knockout. I mean, this man is taking his worldviews, tearing it up, and saying swing. Swing. Like, this man can't do anything. Like, this is a total and complete knockout. Knockout. And can y'all everybody drop a like. What's going on here, man? We have over 100 people here, and you guys aren't dropping likes. Do you guys agree with the man? You guys are Billy fans? Come on now. Drop a like. Everybody drop a like. Every single person here, everybody drop a like. Let's make this happen.
A little bit. Predominantly from my research, I discovered that a lot of information from the Enuma Elish and the seven tablets of creation is a lot of in Genesis, a lot of the creation story that comes into Genesis. Not all of it, but because obviously it's Genesis is a much smaller version of a much bigger story. But it's literally almost word for word from the Enuma Elish.
Listen to what he said, that there are sources out there, listen, that are literally word for word like Genesis. This man is ridiculous. I mean, if y'all ever watch boxing, this man's literally going, hey, can you knock me out? Can you punch me in the jaw? Punch me in the jaw right here. I want to be knocked out. I want to be knocked out. This man said that there are sources that are word for word. I mean, listen, I could be a better heretic than this guy. You know what I would have said? This is what I would have said. There's a lot of similarities with the books in the past, books that came during the time period of Genesis that are very, very similar, too close for comfort. Because of that, me and my camp, we reject it because there's a lot of similarities. But don't go around saying word for word. Word for word? There are documents out there that are word for word. Do you not know that when you speak like this, you knock yourself out? This guy just doesn't know how to debate. He just doesn't know how to debate. I mean, he can't even be a good heretic. The Heretic Society of America should kick this man out for being such a bad heretic. I mean, this is terrible. Word for word. Fellas, word for word. Word for word. You know what that means? That if I pull this up and I pull this up and I go side by side, I'm going to find word for word.
And the seven tablets of story. A lot of in Genesis, a lot of the creation story that comes into Genesis. Not all of it, but because obviously it's Genesis is a much smaller version of a much bigger story. But it's literally almost word for word from the Enuma Elish.
Not all of it, but literally all of it. Did you guys catch that? Not all of it, but literally all of it. So he tries to talk out of both sides of his mouth. He goes, it's not all of it, but literally all of it. Did you guys catch that? Type of one of you guys quote that. It's not literally all of it, but it is all of it. Did you guys catch that? Drop a 1. Drop a 1 if you guys caught that. Let's play it once again. Listen to what he said.
Creation story that comes into Genesis. Not all of it, but because obviously it's a smaller, Genesis is a much smaller version of a much bigger story. But it's literally almost word for word from the Enuma Elish.
So not all of it, almost all of it. All right. So let's see. Since he said it's most, let's see what he breaks down, because now I'm curious. Okay. If he's going to say that most of Genesis is word for word, not all of it, but literally all of it. All right. Or most of it, then let's see what his proofs are.
And the 7 tablets of creation. The Epic of Artur as well is also there in the Old Testament. Several other tablets as well, Code of Hammurabi and a few others have made it into that text. Sumerian cylinder scrolls that talk about the creation story. Again, the creation story in the Epic of Artur. And so we tend to see this copying of ancient tablets, text, and scriptures, even some papyruses, into the biblical text. Meaning that my point here is that I think a lot of people are saying that this information was written in real time. A lot of people believe that. If you ask the average person, they really believe that. But a lot of this information is just copied from older tablets and texts from an earlier date. That's what I found, that it's made it into the canonized Bible.
All right, fellas, I'm leaving Christianity because I believed that Genesis, Exodus, and the first 5 books of the Bible were written at literally the same time. That's what I thought. I thought that they were literally written at the same exact time, and that it poofed from the air. And then our Bible popped up from the air. Kind of like the Quran. That's what I thought. No Christian believes this nonsense, sir.
But they never reference that they got it from any other ancient texts and tablets that have to do with a totally different civilization with totally different religious beliefs.
Have you read the Enuma Elish?
Yeah, I've done lectures.
Sure. Do you mind summarizing the content of the creation account in the Enuma Elish for us?
Sure. The Enuma Elish is a very ancient text discovered in the Library of Ashurbanipal, and the summary of it is that it really gives us an account, which is crazy, an astronomical account of the creation of our solar system. It talks about planets and moons gaining specific orbits around the sun. It talks about a huge planet named Tiamat, 4 to 6 times larger than Earth. Earth didn't exist at the time that this, according to the author of this text, which is pretty interesting. And then there talks about a nemesis of sorts. In the original version, it's called Nibiru, but in a more recent version, still thousands of years old, the name was changed to Marduk. Marduk is in the Jewish American Library, in the biblical text, in the Torah, and so forth. Very popular figure in ancient times in the religious books and texts. Marduk wanted to be the destroyer, so Marduk is the one that during its next orbit towards Tiamat, crashed into Tiamat and destroyed Tiamat. A huge chunk of it swung away, recoalesced, taking the water, land, and organic material, which basically recoalesced as our planet here, Earth. And the rest of it broke up into pieces. Some of it turned into the asteroid belt. Excuse me,
How the heck is that similar to anything in Genesis? That sounds like alien invasion.
Parts of it were thrown towards the sun, and some were thrown towards the inner Oort cloud, towards the outer edge of the solar system. This planet, or this moonlet that orbited supposedly a brown dwarf, based on the description of it, gained a very strange orbit around our sun. And we have the scientific evidence now also to match with NASA's data, where we see that Saturn and I believe Neptune switch places. Uranus is flipped on its side, and that's more evidence that something came through our solar system in ancient times and gravitationally really tugged at planets here and switched up their orbits and even pulled the axis of a planet on its own side, where the equator is now running north and south. So a little bit of modern astrophysics kind of backs up what this ancient text is saying. But the Enuma Elish also then begins to talk about the fact that these beings, it kind of cuts into the fact that these beings, are on Earth and at some point begin to engage mankind. In other words, they didn't create people from scratch, but they engaged the existing hominid and began to utilize us as workers for their workforce. In the Artur epic, you see a much.
What the hell is this guy talking about? What the hell is this guy talking about? And for those of you guys that say JP hell's a curse, no, this man has doctrines of demons, doctrines of hell. So what in the name of demons and hell is he talking about? This sounds like Mormonism mixed with alienism. Brother, you beat me to it. This sounds like Mormonism, but not even, because he says that the gods end up fighting. Actually, Jesus and the devil were brothers, and they fought, according to Mormonism, or something along those lines. Dang, this is ridiculous. I mean, brothers, what have I missed in the book of Genesis? I mean, if this is all happening in the book of Genesis, I've been reading the book of Genesis wrong. Is he going to say that there's spaceships and flying spaghetti monsters? It feels good to finally say that back to somebody. Huh, Warren? Warren, doesn't it feel good to say that? Now I can finally say somebody else has the flying spaghetti monster. Because, man, this is ridiculous. And he has the nerve to say that this is word for word like the book of Genesis, because there's a split in the sea somewhere. I mean, wow, this is bad. This is really bad. Now, I want to say, fellas, typically I don't rate reviews like that. I mean, I don't rate debates like that. I know that more people are uptight, more serious when they do these kind of debate reviews. I hope you guys are really having fun. You know what I'm saying? Because I try to make this fun for you guys. I don't want anybody to fall asleep when I'm reviewing something. So are you guys having fun? Drop a one. Drop a one. If I'm boring you to death, you guys can leave. Okay? It's okay. It's not personal, you know? But before you do leave, make sure to drop a like.
Much similar story. Slightly later date period, but still thousands of years old, the Epic of Artur. And we see a very similar story. And we see where the sons of God literally came down to earth. They came from Mars, according to this text, if you read the translation of the planet Mars and to English. And then they went to battle. They were going to go to battle in South Africa against Enki and Lil and Anu. And they come to terms without going to battle. They argue that they needed women, human women, believe it or not. And they also
argued that they needed human women. What the? I mean, if he's gonna try to say that this is like related to the Nephilim and all these things, I mean, that's a stretch. I mean, I don't see anywhere in Genesis where people are going around saying, "I want human women." No, they was messing around with angels. I mean, they were looking for the angels, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I'm saying? They weren't going around saying, "Oh, I'm tired of these angels. I want human women." I mean, I don't see that anywhere in I mean, this brother is reaching. He's reaching for the stars. He's reaching more than Michael Jordan in Space Jam before he dunked that basketball. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? For those of y'all that know what I'm talking about, drop a one. Space Jam, when Michael Jordan tried to dunk the basketball. That's how much he's reaching. For those of y'all that know, y'all know.
Wanted a workforce. They didn't want to continue to do the labor. They were cleaning out the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, digging canals, building cities on Earth, and according to the text on Mars, not according to me. And a decision was made by Enki and Anu and Enlil to allow this experiment to happen, where they would take the existing hominid here. They would slay one of the gods, meaning that they would, in my opinion, that doesn't mean they're going to kill it, but somehow some type of genetic modification or manipulation, in my personal opinion, it's my personal hypothesis. But in the end, it ends up being that human beings are now doing a lot of this labor and worshiping these people as gods, as they, my personal opinion, masqueraded as gods. A lot of stories there, parallel stories that you see in the Bible, even the Tower of Babel incident, and many other crazy stories that are in the Bible. You can find a lot of those.
Many of the crazy stories that are in the Bible, you can find in other books. Notice he doesn't call the other books crazy, but he calls the Bible crazy. So many of the crazy stories you find in the Bible, right, that reference these other books. I mean, this guy's cuckoo. I mean, he's cuckoo, my friends. He's cuckoo. In regard to doctrine, he is cuckoo. He doesn't know what the heck he's talking about. I mean, he doesn't. Fellas, if I were him, I'd be a better heretic. I'd say, you know what? I believe in these books. You believe in your books. Yeah, there are similarities. That's fine. Yes, you deem me a heretic and an outcast, but I have my reasons. And due to the fact that our books are similar, I feel like I can find salvation through my books Same way you can find salvation through your books. You see how you make this? Now you can extend the conversation. Now, this guy's a good debater, right? Mr. West is a good debater, so he probably knocked that out. But the claims that this guy is making, not only is he silly, but he's a very bad debater and he's a very bad heretic. Anybody who falls for this guy's foolishness, you're just as foolish as he is. That's just what it is.
True stories in the ancient text, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, where you can find the true story of Noah. They found the Noah tablet to give him instructions on how to build the ark. It wasn't a big boat. It was a round disc that he built with the sections cut up on the inside like a pie.
I know who found it. Ron White. Ron White, right? Didn't Ron White find Goliath's sword? We all know Ron White has been discredited.
That was discovered about 4 or 5 years ago. I believe it's at the British Museum now. So there's a lot of text that's just been covered and copied over into the biblical text. And I think that, in my personal opinion, a lot of people are just became a cargo cult, worshiping people that were masquerading as gods. I do believe in God, by the way. Let me make this clear. I believe in God. I believe I believe there's a creator of the universe. I believe that the mathematics, the quantum physics all proves that. The fact that we're here, I believe this universe is imbued with a divine energy and a divine spark that lives inside of all of us. I just don't believe that the God of the Bible is truly the creator of the universe. I don't think that God needs money. I don't think that God needs.
Sure. Do you mind if I just jump in here for a second? Because I think we've kind of gone on from the original question. I appreciate that. I do have a few issues with your summary, although I think I have read the Akkadian version. My Akkadian's not great, but I sat down with a Syriologist friend and we walked through it a couple years ago. So I think that there are components of what you said that I would say are in there. I'm not sure it's the best summary. Nonetheless, okay, going with what you said that there were like verbatim parallels with the biblical creation story. Even just going off with what you said, which I think there are components of that I would agree with, the Battle of the Gods, the concept of Enki and the younger gods, and they fight Tiamat, and then Marduk, who swears he'll defeat Tiamat, and Kunku, who kills Tiamat by shooting her with an arrow, and there's this big battle, and then the gods that die end up being the earth and the sky and even us, because we are the end result of that battle. I'm just curious, when you say that there are not just parallels, but there's actual copying, looking at Genesis chapter 1 and 2, where the creation story is summarized in the Bible, what are the actual kind of parallels there that you're looking to? Because as someone who's read both, I not only do I not find parallels, I actually, and this is the majority of ancient Near Eastern scholarship with me, think that Genesis chapter 1 is actually an apologetic against documents like the Enuma Elish. So what are the parallels there?
Separated the waters from the waters, for example. That's in the Enuma Elish.
Waters from the waters. Therefore, let's just throw out the gospel.
That's also in the biblical text.
Okay, that I would agree is a parallel. The only reason I highlight that is that if you're making this the argument, because if you brought it up, and I mean this with all due respect, there are superficial parallels. I would agree. The separation of the water, the concept of the earth being formless and void. That's also in the Enuma Elish. However, I think all the other details, it's the details that make the difference. And if we're looking at not the superficial crossovers, but the actual themes and concepts of what it's saying, you don't have a creation within 7 days.
The Bible's not going to take the Enuma Elish and put it into the biblical text. There are certain words that they utilize that let me know that they copied it from that text. Like, for example,
so what words?
Separating the water from the waters, the void, the earth being void. That information is literally just copied over. So it tells you that somebody saw that and said, let me add it to this book right here. Or let me add it to the scripture or this papyrus, because it wasn't a book yet at that time.
So was this text discovered that makes it parallel to Genesis? Was this like supposedly discovered prior to? I'm just curious.
It wasn't discovered prior to the Bible, but it dates back long before the Bible was ever written.
Oh, okay.
So let me just say this. So the reason why I say it's actually an apologetic against that is because the purpose of the Enuma Elish, which the Babylonians read every Babylonian New Year, was to point out the fact that the deities, and there's countless deities in the Babylonian pantheon, they actually come from the created order. So they're not outside of time and space. They actually come from the created order. And when they die in this battle, right, when Tiamat is defeated, the defeated gods become the earth and the sky and the plants and even you and me. And in that sense, the theme is that you don't actually have any purpose or end result. And you're not created in the image of God. In fact, in the ancient Babylonian system, only the kings were created in the image of God. And what we see that is counter to that is that even, sure, there's superficial, divided the waters, but we find that in almost every society and culture. That's not a parallel as much as it's just a generality. I would say what we see within the biblical account is that God purposefully creates. There's only one God. He purposefully creates, and then he creates, and it's good. And it continues to say it's good 7 times. And then at the end of chapter 1, just for the thick people in the original audience, it says, and then it was very good. And then he creates humanity, not kings, but simply the humans that he creates in God's image. And they have purpose and meaning, and that instills them with this creation order. And that's not what we find in the Enumalish. In fact, we find the opposite in the Enumalish, is that the created order is not good. It's a mistake. And that you are not created in the image of God. And there's a reminder that regular people are not created in the image of God. So linguistically, I mean, Hebrew does have Semitic ties with Akkadian. Doesn't with Sumerian. Sumerian is a language isolate, a glutenizing language. But I would say, just with all due respect, the parallels linguistically are not there. There might be superficial kind of concepts that are there, but they're so superficial that we can find them in everything. In the sense of, I'm in an office studio, you're in your office studio. That doesn't mean that that we're the same people or we're even in the same place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't agree with that. I just see if I have all these texts out, there's a lot of different information that you can see. There's a lot of it's been copied word for word into the biblical text. But what's the word for word? In your version of what you believe in, you keep saying that God's a he.
So he got cooked. Now he's changing the topic to God is a he. Well, how do you know God is a he? And these type of guys, they go, oh, the Holy Spirit's a woman. You didn't know that? That the Holy Spirit's a woman? Or the Holy Spirit is this? You don't have any proof that God is a he,
Yeah.
And so where do you get that from?
Well, throughout both the Hebrew Old Testament and the Greek New Testament.
I want you guys to know that he was unable to refute. He was unable to refute his alien stories about there were battles of the planets, then the planets collided, and then the planets, where those planets, and they created humans. He didn't push back at all to Wes's statements. Now he's changing it again to how do you come to the conclusion that God is a he? So this guy's 0 for 2 right now. I think 0 for 3. He's just getting cooked. Source, trust me, bro. That's his source. Trust me. This is bad. This is very, very bad.
You have the masculine singular pronoun used for God.
And why is God a man? Where's the evidence of this?
Well, God isn't a man. See, within historical Christianity, we don't believe that God has a gender. However, the way that he has decided to reveal himself is through the masculine plural, and then ultimately by becoming a human in the person of Jesus Christ. So we don't believe that God has a gender. In fact, the fact that God creates humanity in his image and he creates the male and female, those are 2 aspects of the image of God. And so that's the completeness. So historical Christianity has never argued that God is gendered. Jesus is gendered in the sense that during the incarnation, he becomes a human man, but he's still fully man and fully God. But God is spirit, and right, as the scripture says, we worship him in spirit and in truth. But nobody's arguing that. What's that? Sorry,
that always blows my mind.
God is the same all the time, right? He's always good. It's always God is all the same.
How ridiculous! How ahistorical! That's what this guy Muhammad Hijab says. How ahistorical, lad! How ahistorical! When he was getting cooked by Jay Smith, he kept saying that. But how ridiculous. This man said God is the same all the time. He doesn't change, therefore he can't be a man. These are third-grade arguments, man. I mean, this guy's a Mormon mixed with a heretic, Scientology, and Islam. I mean, this is bad. Oh, well, God can't be a he because, God never changes. Gotcha.
All the time. Right?
But we do see that though in scripture, God has revealed himself through the masculine plural. And there are aspects of God's character that we see within scripture that do actually communicate. Jesus says that he longs to gather Israel like a mother hen collects her chicks. So we see aspects of, the feminine of God, not meaning that God is feminine, but that the image of God reflects both the masculine and the feminine. And that's why when, the 2 become one flesh, there's a uniting of that reflects the image of God as well.
Do you believe that the majority
of marriage?
Do you actually believe that the majority of Christians really believe that God is not masculine, that God is has both aspects?
It's irrelevant what the majority of Christians believe.
Road, how many would tell you, that God's not a man? They've never been taught this.
Well, I was taught it growing up. I was taught it in when I was a child, when I went to seminary, when I went to Bible college. I was taught it in graduate school. I would say I would say a few things to that. I would say, in one sense, it's irrelevant what the majority of Christians believe, because what historical biblical Christianity articulates is what they should believe. You know, there are Christians who run around saying all sorts of things that are not in conformity to biblical, historical, Orthodox Christianity.
You're
And they shouldn't believe that, because it's irrelevant. And so if one Christian believes something that is not in line with biblical Christianity, I mean, that's on them. So God is not gendered, but he does express through inspired scripture the masculine the masculine pronoun.
That's pretty convenient. I mean, for an all-knowing, all-loving God to understand that human beings are going to take that and abuse it to put their boot on the neck of women for eons.
Now he's a feminist. This man. So yeah, let's can we all list all the heresies? He's a Mormon. He's a Muslim. He's a Scientologist. And now he's a feminist. Goodness gracious. How many more terrible worldviews is this guy gonna share? I mean, he's just making things up as he goes. I mean, wow. Oh, well, the fact that God is a he, Christians use that to step on the neck of women? What? I've never, y'all ever seen Dragon Ball Z when there's like a fusion? You know, they go fusion, or they use the little earring and they fuse together, and then you'll have Vegito or Gotenks or Gogeta. This guy is that, but of heretics. It's like there was a Mormon, a Muslim, a Scientologist, and they all just fused together and created this man. Like, this is what we're seeing right now. The Grand Kai of heresy. I ain't never witnessed, fellas, I ain't never seen nothing like this. Listen, I'm not a supporter of Hebrew Israelites, but at least they're one thing. I'm not a supporter of Muslims, but at least they're one thing. I'm not a supporter of Mormons, but at least they're one thing. But when you have all of these things clamped together into one person, this is nuts.
It's pretty interesting. Also, I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, I mean, so hold on. Let me speak to
Wait,
that.
can I
because
say something there real quick, guys? I have to.
Yeah, sure.
If it was only for the Old Testament, I would have a hard time following a lot of stuff. For me, like what you said, putting the boots on women and stuff, it was when Jesus came that when they were literally like, oh, if a woman, you can just accuse a female of having an affair and murder her, and that's like, okay, that he was he just reminds me of anyone that basically challenged everything. And people would say that it didn't contradict what's in the Old Testament, but however people were interpreting.
I will say that this host did a good job because the host kind of protected this guy. Now, typically, I don't like when that happens, but this was such a beating that the host did a good job just kind of shielding this guy. Because if the host wasn't here, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Y'all know that meme? Go and get it. Oh my gosh. Y'all know that meme? That old meme? Well, if that guy would not have been there, oh my gosh. You know what I'm saying? Oh my gosh. Like this guy protected this dude. And he tried, believe me, he tried. He didn't do a good job. But every time he was asking questions or things like that, he was protecting him. You know what I'm saying? This is bad. I'm reaching? Brother, what reaching for what? Brother, are you in a state of delusion? This man just said, I'm reaching. What debate review have you been watching? This man believes that the planets fight each other and create humans, and that somehow is similar to the book of Genesis because there was a sea split. I'm reaching? You know what? You're getting banned just for making that comment. You're banned, brother. Brother, you got to see a psychiatrist or something, because that's terrible. I'm reaching. I'm reaching? Terrible.
It. They were believing that they were following the Bible to women can't do this. You stone them if they have an affair or if they're accused of having an affair. And Jesus, you know, as we know the famous scene when they were about to stone her, he's like, he who hasn't sinned cast the first stone, basically saying no one's perfect. And was the first one that I know of that started like speaking to other tribes and other countries that people weren't supposed to, like, they were so racist and prejudiced. And this is where my heart opened up, is like, he stood for this love and this God that broke down all these barriers and just flipped what all the scholars and everything was saying on its head. And that's where I found that I believe that he was crucified, because he went so far like against the grain at the time. And I get what you're saying too. Like, there's stuff where it's like, oh, that's convenient, you know, where human beings can add in that this is there and that's not. But something else that I always was curious. I'm like, you know, if especially the New Testament, if it was like written by man and stuff and pre-planned, I'm like, I think.
Listen, if God Logic eats during live streams, I can eat during live streams.
They would have done a better job of not making a lot of the people so like ignorant. The people that were like literally with Jesus, questioning him half the time, like, bro, I don't know if you can do this miracle. And Jesus is like, dude, you just saw me yesterday turn water into wine. And I'm like, if they really, if I was writing a story, I'm like, I want everyone to believe this, I would make the people not like is questionable. It's like they have so many characteristics where.
Brother, this debate has me so stressed that I got to eat me a little snack. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is how bad this debate is. You know what I'm saying? And look, after witnessing this white on black crime, we got to promote unity. Here we have black and white united, being eaten by me. All right? We just witnessed white on black crime. And I don't support that. Let's carry on.
The humanity in it is what like always drew me. And like, even one thing in the Old Testament that David and Goliath kills Goliath, a man after God's own heart. I'm like, if you're pre-writing this to be the perfect person after God's own heart, then he becomes king. You're going to like have the story end perfectly. But then he goes off to see, he's watching this lady bathe nude, has an affair with her, has her husband killed. Mm-hmm. It's like, but then goes on to keep praying to God and coming back to God, like with a humanity. And God's like, this is a man after my own heart. And it's like finding all these human flaws is, to me, showed so much of like the beautiful struggle that, and I'm not going off everything you guys are talking about, which is factual stuff. I'm just talking from my own experience of ways where I drew and continue to draw my own conclusions. And I'm much more about my relationship with God personally, with Jesus and God. It's the same over worshiping.
Yo, y'all are savages, man. Yo, why y'all come at homie like that, bro? Why are you guys coming at the moderator like that, bro? He's expressing his heart. That's what you're getting at, bro. Bro, y'all are terrible, man. Y'all coming at the moderator, bro? Come on, fellas. Come on. Come on.
In the religion, because so many people can, as we all know, that's wars are created, slaves are taken. There's so many horrible things that have been done in the name of religion. And it's sad. And that's where Jesus comes back into the game to me. I'm talking you guys to me, to where he was like the one that was like gathering all these people of all these, like, what are you doing? Like, we're supposed to be here helping each other. This is about loving each other and coming together. Like, you're killing them because they eat meat on Tuesday and they don't eat bacon on Sunday. And you're literally like murdering each other. It's so messed up. So I get where people look at different organized religion and stuff, and they're like, this is horrible. Like, on behalf of Christians, I'm like, I'm fully apologetic for what was it, the crusades. It's like in the name of Catholicism, there's was it the crusades, modernize religion and stuff, and they're like, this is horrible. Like on behalf of Christians, I'm like, I'm fully apologetic for.
This man's a Christian. This is terrible. And he's apologizing from the Crusades. Weren't the Crusades a response to Muslims? Yeah, it got a little bloody, don't get me wrong, but it was something that was necessary, you know? But hey.
Yeah. I mean, there's a
you should start conquering that other country in the name of and do it in the name of God. And then, that's the way I look at things. So anyway, go ahead. I had to just throw in.
Yeah. I mean, there's a really great resource written by a friend of mine, John Dixon. It's a book called Bullies and Saints, where he goes through a lot of the instances of we're obviously going to find abuses, and every human being is going to find a way to exploit whatever is presented to them. So in one sense, I think we can say, isn't it convenient that God used the masculine plural pronoun, or sorry, the masculine pronoun. I keep saying plural, it's just a mistake. The masculine pronoun. And we can say, oh, sure, that's convenient, maybe, but it is how he has revealed himself to us. And it's not his fault if we abuse that. I mean, we could say, so I grew up in the Middle East. My parents worked in Amman, Jordan. And when I was living in the Middle East, there was a country called the Democratic Republic of Iraq. Now, just because democracy exists and people are going to name things democratic when they obviously aren't, doesn't mean we then judge democracy. I mean, think of the Democratic Republic of North Korea, right? Nobody thinks that that's an actual representation of democracy. So people are always going to abuse terms and ideas and concepts. The difference is, though, I think historically within Judeo-Christianity, you have this ethic that we were talking about before that I think is fundamentally different than what we find in things like the Enuma Elish, the Atrasis, and other things, in that we are created in the image of God. And actually, one of the earliest criticisms of Christianity are by individuals like Celsus, who is a Greco-Roman philosopher in the 2nd century, where he accused Christianity of being foolish, dishonorable, and stupid, and he called it the religion of slaves, women, and children. Why? Not because God used the masculine pronoun for himself and people were abusing that, because the concept that Christians believed in of everybody, no matter what your gender, your race, your social standing, Paul says in Christ there is no slave nor free, there is no Jew nor Gentile, there is no Scythian or barbarian, there's no male nor female. These things united people. And we can see there's a historian named Rodney Stark. And in his book, The Rise of Christianity, he actually says that you can track empirically the agency of women across the ancient world by the movement of Christianity. So that, in other words, whenever an area became populated by Christians, we see a direct correlation with the privileges and treatments of women that expand in time when the surrounding culture largely didn't view women as being fully human. So I think we're always going to have abuses, but if there's one worldview that exists that gives agency to people and says that everybody has worth by nature of being just human, it's the Christian worldview. And that's where I think it's very different. So we can argue about why we think God should or shouldn't have revealed himself in his pronouns, but I think that's actually irrespective of the historical reality that we see within the impact of Christianity, particularly on the West, but around the world, and how it gives agency to the marginalized.
Wes, can I ask you one? So because I'm always interested in this, like you were raised Christian. I always think about this, like my wife who's.
That man got so nervous when he said, Wes, let me ask you a question. He was like, oh man, I hope this don't come back right back to me.
Muslim, and our beliefs at the core are so similar, but there's some differences. And I wonder, like, if I was born in Sierra Leone, West Africa, where she was, I know in the Bible says Christ revealed, but C.S. Lewis is someone that I really respect, because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a think outside the box. What's movies, and he's like, whatever you did,
I had the Bhagavad Gita. I was born in Pakistan, and I spent a portion of my childhood in Jordan. I grew up in majority Muslim countries and surrounded by majority Muslim environments. And we had, a copy of the Quran in the room. In fact, we had the Bhagavad Gita and the Book of Mormon, and for a little while, other documents in our house. These were things that my parents, although they never verbally said, these Christianity is true, therefore these are not forbidden, these are not verboten. The truth, capital T truth, of the reality of the world we behold can stand up against scrutiny and investigation. And I did do a great deal of that as a kid. My dad is a historian as well. He has a doctorate, and I grew up on him reading the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. But at the exact same time, the reason why I actually went to university with full intention of going into the police force, but it was interactions with Muslims and Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses and atheists, and accusations against the credibility of the Bible, which actually piqued my interest, because they would say things that I thought, if that's true, of course that undermines what I believe. I believe that Jesus is God incarnate. If I can't trust the Gospels as reliable first century eyewitness testimony, then I might as well throw all of this away because I'm not going to believe a lie, even if it's a convenient lie. And so it was actually the exploration of eventually going into graduate college and then now in working on my PhD, the largest secular university in Canada, that got me thinking, okay, how do we investigate these things? What are the methodologies by which we go about to explore the origins and credibility of something like the Bible? And that investigation, with all due respect to Billy and the content you put out, has actually confirmed what I believe. You know, I'm dealing with the actual manuscripts. I travel to academic institutions, to other countries, and I look at these things and I read them. And it's a privilege to be able to learn languages like Greek and Coptic and Hebrew and Aramaic and dig into these things. And I think ultimately, I really appreciate what you said there, Mark, with your articulation of your personal relationship. And I think that's so important. But I think it's also important to remember that that relationship is based on something that's real and verifiable. And we can look into the evidence. You know, I have friends who are linguists, philologists, and historians. And when we look into these things and we talk with one another and we're discussing, we're constantly trying to falsify our theories because that's what good history does. We're looking for the falsification. You don't go in, ideally, if you want to be a good historian, with trying to prove.
Yo, everybody type in the comment section something that Billy's thinking about right now. Look at Billy's face and you guys type what you think that man is thinking.
Your original thesis. You go in and say, okay, what are the avenues that actually could disprove this? And then how do we engage with those in an appropriate and articulate manner? So what I believe is true, but I believe it based on the evidence of the actual documentation. You know, I've read a lot of the literature that you're talking about, Billy, the Numa Elish, the Atrasis, the Bhagavad Gita, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and I've read some of them in their original languages because I've tried to be a good historian and go back into the primary sources. Or if I can't, engage with people like my friends who are Assyriologists, who are philologists, and try to not just go off of a translation, but the original. And I think I found largely the opposite of the conclusions that you have made, Billy. And I know that you are very passionate about what you talk about, and I respect that. I just think that the confidence might not actually be backed up by the reality of the evidence. So when we're looking at something like the Sinai Bible, when we're looking at something like the Gospel of Barnabas, when we're looking at something like the Gospel of Jesus' wife, these are things that actually have provenance that we can verify. And ultimately, I think the answers to the questions of the legitimacy or the illegitimacy of those things point to not just a different conclusion, but actually the opposite conclusion, and that Christianity is true.
Well, now I'm glad you said that. So those three topics are a very small piece of my concept and idea of what really happened in the ancient past. So that's a very small fraction. You know, that's less than 1/10 of.
See, this is Billy. See, if I were Billy, I would have let the host debate for the whole show. I would have stood quiet. I would have let that host take over. But Billy's pride don't realize that Billy is getting barbecued. All right, Billy's Barbecues. We should make a restaurant named Billy's Barbecues, because this man is getting barbecued. But his pride, he just had to say something. When the moderator pretty much got him off the hook, the moderator was saying a bunch of silliness as well, but he just had to say something, talking about, well, these three components. Components of what?
Not just a different conclusion, but actually the opposite conclusion, and that Christianity is true.
Well, now I'm glad you said that. So those three topics are a very small piece of my concept and idea of what really happened in the ancient past. So that's a very small fraction. You know, that's less than 0.1%. You talk about eyewitness accounts to convince you that Christianity is real. There's been eyewitness accounts of every culture that I visited around this entire planet, and their eyewitness accounts of what they experienced is 100,000% opposite of what's in the Bible. People have.
What do you mean? Can you give me an example?
You know, the Dogon tribe, for example, in Mali, Africa. They experienced a culture that they claim came to this planet from Sirius B. They have the evidence that they knew these beings were from Sirius B because they have the instruments that show the orbit of a trinary star system that we couldn't discover until the 1970s with our.
Really? This really exists? I'd want to see this.
Modern technology, okay? They understood not only the orbital pattern of Sirius A, B, and C, but even that B was a failed star, which you can't see it from Earth with the naked eye. They knew that it was a white dwarf. They even knew that they said that if you took a tablespoon of it, the entire tribe or 1,000 men couldn't lift a tablespoon. They understood mass and gravity as well. They were told the shape, the sizes, and the colors of all the planets in our solar system, which they recorded. And there's only one wisdom keeper, and that person can never be touched by a person. If they get touched by another person, they'd actually be killed. And then they eventually have a mentee that they break down that verbally handed down knowledge to, and that next person then takes over, becomes the wisdom keeper. And they've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. And science, modern science, has found all their information to be 1,000% accurate. Then you have the Hopi tribe of the Americas. And this
No proof or evidence. He's just making all this up. He's just making all of this up. Oh no, this is terrible.
indigenous tribes, Hopi tribe, Lakota tribe, also having engagements with these quote unquote star brothers, even having an account of them being taken underground, which you don't see just only in America. I just came back from Turkey. You have the people from Turkey and Mesopotamia also being taken underground into a place called Derinkuyu by these beings, by these people, a structure that's built 12 stories deep underground, that's made out of volcanic tuff, a very soft stone. And if you don't know what you're doing, it'll actually collapse. There's no evidence of any collapse. And it was thousands of years old. It was reused many times. So the mainstream story about what it was used for to hide from Romans is actually false. This place is ancient. And in order to build it, you actually have to have foreknowledge of how to construct this type of underground civilization that can hold 20 to 30,000 people, places for livestock, places for worship, with no sign of collapse. And you have to have hundreds of ventilation shafts. And I've been down there. Those ventilation shafts cut through solid rock all the way down to the core. And there's even more. It links to other underground cities that are miles and miles away. As you get to the very base of this area, you can cut through and go to another location. But again, these people were taken under. Also, then you have the ancient Egyptians. Similar story. Major catastrophe comes. These people come and take them underground. Then you have the information in the Egyptian book of Going Forth by Day. More accounts by people, our ancestors, that have accounts that do not match up with the biblical text. And so all of a sudden, we're saying that all these cultures, the Aboriginal people, I can go into them as well. I've gone for walkabouts in Outback, in the Outback, and the Aboriginal elders, same thing. They were seated here by Pleiadians. This is their verbal handed down history for thousands of years. And I can go around the world and I can come up with all this information from all these eyewitness accounts from people that should be respected, dignified, and shouldn't be scoffed. And that we're now saying that all this information that they put forward, all their verbal handed down history, all their written history, that's got to go to the side because this one text is 1,000% accurate.
Sure, but so my question is, most of that is oral history, correct?
Oh, it's all oral history, even the Bible.
Okay, so when we're engaging with oral history, what methodologies are you using to confirm that the orality is accurate?
Oh, man. Well, first and foremost, some of these texts some of these cultures have written down information in caves. You've got cave paintings. The Dogon tribe actually have not only written down.
Sure. No, I don't disagree with that. The question is one of historic. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. The question is one of methodological analysis. So you have to have a method by which you can find either that something is falsifiable or that there are avenues by which you can show internal and external accuracy of credibility. So this is what we do with documents. This is what we do with the ancient Gospels. This is what I do. I've worked on Xenophon and Plutarch. And we look at the internal evidences and the external multivalent corroboration to try to figure out, okay, yes, we have all these stories. Great. I don't deny that. But as a historian, as someone who's trying to figure out what is accurate, how do you know if I use the term verisimilitude, do you know what that term means?
No, but I can tell you this. Tell me how the Dogon tribe saw Sirius B, knew the orbit of Sirius B, a trinary star system accurately, and can show you the orbit with a special tool that they made that was given to them by these people. How do they know the shapes, the sizes, the colors, and the orbital pattern of all these planets in our solar system and other star alignments that they would use to have something called the Ziggy and planet and their own harvesting and planting and so forth and so on? That's not enough evidence that there's something.
Well, I'm not aware of that particular case. And even, I mean, I would grant that, the ancient people are far more technologically advanced than we give themselves credit for. Just because they're ancient doesn't mean they're stupid. I am well aware, as someone who has done both investigation of the past and done archaeological analysis, that is a reality. My question is simply, okay, you have these stories or you have these accounts, you're referring to them as eyewitness testimony. How are you going about verifying that as that?
Well, if the people had eyewitness testimony about Jesus, they then just wrote down their eyewitness testimony on a piece of paper or parchment paper or papyrus. So these people.
Right. So that's where internal methodological analysis.
Some of it's actually written down. So, I mean, it's the same exact thing. There's really no difference.
Well, no. So you do internal investigations to figure out when something was dated. So something like so when I use that term verisimilitude before, that's something we as historians are looking for. It's a term that simply means the appearance or likelihood of truthfulness. So when you do historical analysis, it's an inference to the best explanation. So you have proof and you have data, and you're extrapolating that data on levels of probability. So some things can be confirmed as high probabilistically true, and other things are lower in their probability that they happened. But there are different methodologies, different ways that you explore historically how that happens.
Well,
so for the Gospels, we look at
with the Dogon tribe. Scientists went there to visit the tribe, and they still have no answers because they used their modern science. They took the best scholars to visit these people, and they're still scratching their heads. Something happened.
So let's get something straight here. We still don't know how the pyramids were made. Something happened there, sure. But how does that disprove the Gospels? He's unable to do that, right? And we have to fact check all of these things that he's saying because he already lied countless amount of times. So this guy is saying, oh, yeah, there's eyewitness testimonies, but how do you substantiate that it actually really happened? You know what I'm saying? And he's unable to do that. Just because something allegedly happened doesn't mean it's true. Historically, we can prove Jesus existed. We can prove his resurrection. We can prove these things. But how can you prove your things? And he's unable to do that. If you notice, all he's doing is attacking the Gospels, but he can't really defend his position.
In there.
Sure.
That doesn't.
And I'm not even denying that necessarily, but the question is, okay, we need different levels of evidence and exploration, not just scientifically, but historically, to derive something as eyewitness testimony. Now we have mountains of that, and I'm more than willing to go into some of that with the Gospels as early eyewitness testimony that can be verified externally and internally. But nonetheless, the only reason I ask, Billy, is because I've listened to a fair amount of your content, and I'm unaware of the methods that you use to try to discern between what is an accurate source historiographically and an inaccurate source historiographically.
Well, I use getting in an airplane and traveling to these places, doing my own research, talking with indigenous cultures, and researching as much of the text that is available.
Just trust me, bro. That's his source. Just trust me, bro. I'm my own source. I go in an airplane. I do my own research. I'm my own source. Did you guys catch that? Did you guys catch that? He said, what's your source? I get on an airplane. I do my own research. I'm the source. It's game over. That's it. It's over. Goodbye. Good night. See you later. Knockout.
That I can possibly find.
Okay. So I don't dispute that. And I do believe you have done that. But I mean, even from what we've talked about, so you've researched the text, but when we talked about the crucifixion, everything you cited was either, and I mean with all due respect, false in terms of the Sinai Bible, because Codex Sinaiticus is just a 4th century Greek manuscript of the Gospels that we have today, or they were verified forgeries in terms of the Gospel of Jesus' wife.
You might be right. You may be right on that particular part of the topic, but like I said, that's less than 0.1% of the information that I hold.
Sure, but that was the original question. So yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, okay, well, so I'm going off of what we've already talked about. So you said you explore the text. I don't deny that.
So you may be right.
But the evidence, by going off of what you have put forward in terms of the actual documentary evidence, is not just less than convincing in my respect. And I mean this with respect, because I think you have done a lot of research. You've traveled to these places. I have too. Like, this is what I do as my career. But I'm not really getting indication, because in history, we go to the primary sources in their primary languages. And when Mark asked, okay, why do you deny the crucifixion? The sources you use were not primary.
Okay, we're still talking about the same thing over and over again. There's so much more we can talk about here. We're wasting a lot of time. There's so much more. That's this amount.
Do you guys
so
think
much more stuff to talk about?
Do you think that all these different cultures and stuff describing these other beings, could those have been? I'm not an expert theologian or whatever, but like where it talks about war, I always want to personally ask you this too, where in the Bible it talks about like wars between
This guy has saved this man. Hopefully Billy takes this guy to lunch, because he has saved him. And Billy's unable to answer anything.
the demons and the angels. There's a lot of crazy stuff in the Bible too that it's.
Look, at the end of the day, is there any kind of evidence or proof the civilizations perhaps saw things? Sure, we can grant that there have been civilizations that saw things. I believe there are demons. I believe there are all these things. For example, Muhammad believed that he saw Gabriel. I think that was a demon, right? Now, a lot of people say that Muhammad was schizophrenic. Okay, fine. But I believe that people do see things. The concern here is Billy, silly Billy, he's made the claim that the Bible's not true. Now he's saying that there are other civilizations that have seen things irrelevant, Prove to me that the Bible is not true, because the last two sources you used were trash. Somewhere, somehow, somebody saw something or created some particular technology or something like that. Irrelevant. We don't know how the Egyptians made the pyramids till this day. There could have been demons, there could have been giants, there could have been a multitude of things. We don't know. But how does that contradict or destroy the Bible? You can't do that. So that's where I'm saying this guy's out of line, because he's making a bunch of things up, and that's what these guys do. They spew a lot of nonsense. You don't have enough time to fact check them, because who's going to fact check a million things at once? Impossible. So he'll say a bunch of baloney, then you can't really fact check it, and then he thinks he won, right? But in reality, you got to hold these guys hostage. Hostage how? You have to prove to me that the Bible is false and you're not leaving. And he's unable to do that. And whenever Wes tells him, hey, you brought up two false sources, can you prove me wrong? Billy is getting frustrated. Billy doesn't know what the heck he's talking about.
You can prove it's been written, but it also takes some faith, because you can't physically see where there was wars between demons and angels and stuff fighting in the heavens. So there's tons going on. Obviously, could any of those have been, like, from what you've discovered or how people have written it? Do you think those could have been demons or angels?
I
Which I don't think
believe in
discredits.
demons or angels at all.
You don't believe in them at all?
Nah, I don't believe in demons and angels. When you read Azazel coming down in the book of Enoch, coming down in the first thing.
So now he doesn't believe in angels and demons. So he doesn't believe in angels and demons. That could have been an explanation. I mean, this guy is such a bad debater that he can't even help himself. Now he doesn't believe in angels and demons.
Thing he does is teach people how to make knives and swords so you can cut a man's head off. You read, you see these quote unquote.
Where's that in the book of Enoch?
In the book of Enoch, Azazel. He comes down. He teaches.
Where's that in the book of Enoch? Is it the only reason I ask is because there are two Enochs, first Enoch and second Enoch, and only first Enoch is an actual historical amalgamation.
Okay, and then you analyze the fact that these angels are
Yo, he didn't even address the claim. He goes, only first Enoch has historical significance. Okay. And then you talk about the angels that are black. Look at this. Look at fellas.
So the only reason I ask is because there are two Enochs, first Enoch and second Enoch, and only first Enoch is an actual historical amalgamation.
Okay, and then you analyze the fact that
Wait. He pretended he didn't even say nothing. Like, yo, come on.
these angels are having sex, they're getting drunk. These are just people.
Whoa. Where are angels getting drunk?
Angels party, they go, they hang.
Did he just say angels party and get drunk? My friends, even Wes was like, whoa. I mean, this man is, did he just say, maybe I'm drunk. I don't drink, but maybe my water was spiked.
The fact that these angels are having sex, they're getting drunk. These are just people.
Whoa. Where are angels getting drunk?
Angels party, they go, they hang out with people, they go to war with people, they put on their outfits and go to war with people. This is in the
Where are
Bible.
they getting drunk though?
They get married, okay, whatever that means. But they're having a good time. Okay, not
In
married.
fact, scripture says that angels can't get
like
married.
Merry Christmas.
Not married. Mary, Merry. But the point that I'm making here is when you start to really analyze what these angels are doing, and you start to analyze how many people are dying in the biblical text, you start to say, well, how many people did Satan actually kill? And when you start doing the tally on the numbers, God's doing most of the killing in the Bible. It's not the devil that's doing all the killing. And God says in Isaiah, I created the good and I created the evil. Do what I say, the Lord. So he's saying that he's doing the good and the evil. Is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Now, my personal
I mean-
opinion on this whole thing, I just let me get this.
This guy went from angels get drunk and they party and go to war. So that means that if I join the army, there might be an angel next to me. Then he goes from that to angels getting drunk to saying that there's a tally issue because God kills more people than the devil. And then he takes the scriptures out of context. He says God created evil. When we break that down, God is talking about calamity. And in context, he's talking about judgment because he gives calamity. God is God. He can bring consequences to people. So that's the context of that text. And anytime God takes life away, it's of result of some kind of evil that said persons did. Okay? So, and last but not least, as Frank Turek says, if God is the giver of life, then technically speaking, he's just moving people from location to location. So, because he's the giver of life. So he can take life as he wishes, and we don't cease to exist. So if God were to hypothetically say that killed me, let's say we say God killed me, in theory, God didn't remove me from existence. I'm in another destination. So this guy's all over. But how do you go from angels getting drunk to angels partying to God kills everybody? Brother, your transitions need some work. Like, does that transition even make sense? Oh, yes, angels, they party and get drunk and they're in the army. And God kills people. Whoa, brother. Add a little transition.
This out because we keep going over the same rhetoric over and over again. My personal opinion is that the biblical text is a good book. Like I've said, I've got videos. My number one video on Twitter has me saying this. It's good text because if you actually apply some of the information that's in the Bible, you can get a good result, like you have done, Mark.
Right. I struggle with no, I want you to finish your thought.
Yeah. So because you can get a good result, but there's a lot of misinformation in the Bible. There's a lot of false information that's copy from ancient text. And if you go by that text, all of a sudden you end up with 400 years of slavery. You end up with abuse. You end up with divide and conquer tactics that separate people. You end up with people thinking that they're the chosen ones and they're the chosen people. And we've been promised this promised land so we can eradicate another race of people because this is our land, because God promised it to us. You have people that want to go on the papal inquisitions and torture and kill and murder over 80 million people. You have the American Holocaust, 111 million indigenous natives slayed. You have all this going on because of this text, which is set up so contradictory throughout its path across time. You get into the New Testament, slavery is still being condoned in the New Testament.
Was it?
Honor thy slave master as you would honor God or Jesus, it says, I believe. So in Ephesians. So
I always thought but the God of the Old Testament too. Like I'll let you go real quick, but I'm just, and I know you have to go soon too, but I'm speaking as I challenged my own subject. It was always, I'm telling you guys, this is where Jesus came in and changed everything for me. But like the Old Testament too, it is hard for me to read even Noah thinking God's like mad at everyone. Let's flood the whole world.
With sincerity, a couple more points I want to make.
That I created and then leave a few alive. Doesn't seem like what Jesus did at all. No, it's
a couple more points I want to make because he got a lot of talking in. It did say, slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear as sincerity of heart as you would obey Christ. That's slaves. Obey your earthly masters with respect and fear with sincerity in your heart, just as you would obey Christ. So it does say that in Ephesians 6:5, but there's so many aspects.
That stuff is what.
And what is the context of what Ephesians is saying? So I think this is very important because we don't take text in isolation. So within Scripture, and this is why all the abolition movements throughout history have only been Judeo-Christian movements. There's never been an abolition movement that wasn't Christian. And actually, there's the recent work by historian Tom Holland, not the Spider-Man actor, different Tom Holland, but his recent Dominion highlights this fact very well. This is not a Christian, but in it, he shows that going right back into the antiquity with the Cappadocian Fathers was the first abolition movement, and then into the British and the American abolition movements. These were fundamentally Christian movements run by Christians because of the idea that when Paul, who wrote that letter to Ephesians, says, in Christ there is no slave nor free, he's breaking down those barriers. So in Ephesians, when he says, slaves obey your masters, he's operating on the socioeconomic context of what he's going on. And he's saying, hey, we have slaves and we have free people, okay? If you're a believing slave, if you're a slave who believes in Jesus as the Messiah, be equitable in how you are living your life. Reflect Christ accurately. And that's a movement that he is fundamentally working towards, that eventually starts to completely take out the legs.
This is
from
where
the
we would
faith
argue,
movement in
Wes.
general.
I would be. I love. By the way, I love that we're all. This is respectful. I don't feel this is all just
Yeah.
three
It's all
grown-ups
love, it's all
talking
love.
in a
Brother, with all due respect, we don't care what you have to say.
healthy
Appreciate
way.
this.
Be like, conclude, and then they're for like, it seems like the thing.
Okay. Passage is writing to a church in Ephesus. What's going on in Ephesus, and how is what he's saying in that city in what is modern day Turkey? How does that pertain to that particular time and framework? Where is Paul coming
How does
from?
it pertain to now, though? Is my question, because
Yeah, so
you're giving me.
here's
You're
how I answer
starting,
that question.
and I
Yeah,
love
so-
you to death, Wes. But you're starting to give. I can. Sorry to interrupt you. I believe in God. Like I believe in the core. You know, like
This
people are still going to be studying. So
say this. So you do have,
can forget it. So I'm sorry about interrupting. Thanks for throwing me under the bus for that.
yeah. So, how I would answer that is I would say this. So you do have examples of where Paul is writing, and he's writing to a particular group. And so we look at, okay, what does it mean for a woman to wear and adorn themselves with gold in a first century Greco-Roman context, right? It has to do with the fact that prostitutes would wear those things. So we need to ask the question, what is the intention of the text?
But
So
sorry, I got to ask you again, though.
Meaning.
But how do you interpret that's what I've been, the reason I'm interrupting you is I've heard this. I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
I respect the crap out of you for how deep you go into studying the ancient texts and stuff, which is so important for the real root of it all. But they've told me that same thing, and I'm like, but why doesn't it just say that he was speaking to the women and stuff that were prostitutes of that time? Like where does that correlate?
He's not speaking to prostitutes. He's talking about purity, and he's talking in the context of when he says.
So this guy's probably talking about head coverings. I mean, yeah. So, or I do not permit women to speak in the church, or something along those lines, something like that. But yeah.
You know,
Why did you put that in the Bible?
So
that just confuses everything. That was some of the wasn't for.
The Bible is written by people.
So you're, if it wasn't for Jesus, so we got you back on, Wes.
Yeah. I understand what you're
sign-
saying, Mark, but what I'm saying is, I think we're missing a big point here. The point that I'm trying to make here is that the Bible is written by people.
Yep, the Bible was written by people, and so were all of your sources, so were your books, so is everything. So if we can't trust the Bible because it was written by people, we can't trust you either, genius.
And men who are extremely flawed. And the evidence of that is what they did, what they took.
Wait a minute. Doesn't this guy have books? Isn't he flawed? Isn't he flawed? So then let's just throw everything out because people are flawed.
The information that's in that biblical text and what they did with it globally to other human beings, and how they even wrote about it in the Bible, how they enslaved and tortured people in the biblical text. So in that case, even in the book of Deuteronomy, which is one of the most brutal books out there, where everything is given okay to rape women, kill children. If one person talks against your Lord, go to that town and kill the whole town, burn the town down.
So brutal.
It's just too much. Like I said,
turns people into salt.
The killing in the Bible is not being done by Satan. That's why I don't care. I don't believe in demons and all this other kind of stuff. Moses goes to the top. He talks to God. He gets his tablet. The first commandments are, "Thou shalt not kill." He comes down. As soon as he sees the people making a golden calf, he kills most of them. It's just like, come on.
And I've learned with some of these stories how it correlated with kill your first son, related to then what happened with Jesus. But I'm still like, in my head, they're like, that's so beautiful. He was willing to sacrifice his son as God would. And I'm like,
I don't believe
that's so mean that God,
I don't believe it's beautiful.
like, Jesus
understand.
changed my whole story. No, when I'm in heaven, and I don't believe God is irrational, because he would be smarter than every one of us to be able to literally create everything. I would be like, God, I don't like, why would you tell that dude to kill his son?
I don't see any benefit in killing your own kid.
And then right at the last second, he's like, no, it's cool. I was just testing.
Yeah, I mean, these are ridiculous arguments. I mean, he was testing the man. You know what I'm saying? That's that. Like, what's the issue with God testing people in his creation? What's wrong with that? That moderator is just as bad as the guy on the left. Like, that moderator deserves a metaphorical beating as well.
Your faith in me. It's like that seems psychologically to me, when God's like, kill your own son, but then at the last minute, don't do it. Oh man, you proved your faith to me. I would be like, God, isn't there like I don't feel like you need to do that to a person. I don't think that's such a beautiful story. And I'm talking as a Christian. There's a lot of things with the Old Testament. I I struggle with, but it doesn't change my overarching beliefs. And I think there is things that are written in, maybe misinterpreted, that aren't as important as the bigger things, like the crucifixion and stuff of Jesus. Like, I'm hoping to God that your methodology of proving that is right compared to Billy's in that specific scenario. But in some of these other things, like, I almost rather them be disproved, that God killed his that God, and I've heard a lot of these same.
Let me just say this. So the most quoted verse of the Bible in the Bible is a version of Exodus 34:6, which fundamentally describes who God is, that he's compassionate and loving, full of grace and mercy, and abounding in steadfast love. And so, in fact, if you read the book of Jonah, the beef that Jonah has with God, the reason why he doesn't want to go to Nineveh, is because he believed that God is so loving that if he tells the Ninevites to repent and they repent, God is going to forgive them. So fundamentally, we have the picture of God consistently throughout the Bible, both in the Old and New Testaments, as being a God who is rich in love and mercy and abounding in steadfast kindness. And so we want a God who is just. And just to speak very briefly to the slavery issue, I mean, Leviticus 25 condemns by death the man stealing. So stealing someone and selling them into slavery. And the fact that the 10 Commandments are prefaced with, you are a nation who was slaves. You know, I'm the God of Israel who brought you out of Egypt. So there's a fundamental difference. And there's lots of literature on this. I would encourage people to read my friend Paul Copan's book, Is God a Moral Monster? He's written some excellent stuff. He's also written on Did God Command Genocide in the Old Testament? He's a leading.
Right. What do you think of this?
Man, this thing was so one-sided, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a shame that the moderator had to manifest and ruin it, you know?
Yeah, he's kind of worse than this Billy guy. You don't know what he's talking about. At least Billy's thought about some of the stuff he's saying. But did you know who any of these people were before this whole thing?
Nope.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, I mean that guy. I'm gonna look more into this guy, Wes. Wes is friends with the guy that gave me this video.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna definitely tune in more to Wes. Like that I'll definitely do that. You know, but this was bad. This was bad. This was a beating. And honestly, Billy should retire from debating. Actually, Billy shouldn't retire from debating. Billy should continue to debate so that people can learn these terrible arguments that he's making. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's bad, brother. It's bad. It really, really is, brother. It really, really is. And
Apparently, he's doing a live stream in a couple of days where he's going to talk about how the debate was fake or rigged or set up or something.
yeah, if it was rigged against the Christian,
Yeah,
not the other way around. Because the reality is this: if the debate was rigged against the dude, we wouldn't have had that moderator interrupting every 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? And it seems like the moderator's a nice guy,
Mhm.
but then he got demonized. The devil got him. You feel me? So the devil needed to get the moderator involved so that the job wouldn't fully get done. Because if it was just Billy and Wes, Billy would have gotten. Billy's handing out lawsuits. You feel me?
Yeah.
But if this was a situation where the moderator was not there, I think that things could have gotten much worse than just simply a little lawsuit. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah, that ain't gonna go nowhere. Oh
Not
wait,
yet.
hold on. So they says he's been on rant since the day after this, but he's paid someone more stolen donation money to get his rant on a bigger platform, most likely. Interesting. I'm assuming that's Billy.
Yeah, it's bad, brother. It's bad. This is all bad. Honestly, brother, I'm gonna have to be honest with you, bro. I'm gonna keep it 100. I don't think there's anybody that agrees with Billy on this chat. Is there anybody here that agrees with anything that Billy said?
There
I'm
can't be.
if there is, I'd love to talk to them, but they wouldn't be that silly because that would be
No.
suicide. That would be suicide. You know, he just didn't make any good solid arguments. You feel me? He
Not
didn't
one.
and he was just making things up.
Yeah.
So this guy says he agrees with Billy. Oh no,
Yeah,
he's
right.
just okay. These guys are trolling.
Yeah, he's
These-
trolling. Did
Yeah.
you see when Terrence Howard was on Joe Rogan talking about math and
Oh
you know,
yeah. I remember that.
yeah, how
Yeah.
1 times 1 is 2 because the energy of the 1 has to transfer to the whatever. That's what this dude reminded me of. Like, he's talking about quantum physics and mechanics and all of this with the gods fighting and, you know, creating the earth and it tilted on its axis. And modern astrophysicists have proven that there's some validity to that. So this guy's all over the place.
Yeah, brother, it was bad. It was painful. You know, I was able to I made some jokes through this, but this was bad. I mean,
Mhm.
and a lot of these guys, they don't like to debate, brother. On TikTok, you have a lot of guys like that, a lot of spiritualist guys, and they don't like to talk. They just don't. I said I'm
Mhm.
willing to debate. Now, I'm not gonna debate any kind of guys like this because there could be a lawsuit, and I can't afford a lawsuit, you know. But
Yeah.
it's ridiculous, brother. It really is. I mean, to sue somebody because you got cooked. You got cooked so badly, you had to sue somebody.
Yeah,
And
it's sad. I want to see I want to see if that could possibly even go anywhere cuz unless these dudes signed a contract, leading up to this, he's not going to get nowhere with that. But if he signed some kind of contract where it said you can't release this footage unless the moderator or Billy says so, then I don't even know what he's bothering for.
yeah, I doubt it. I really, really do. I don't think that there's gonna be I don't I don't think that that man wants no part of Wes. Let's just put it to you that way. And somebody said this was pure comedy, but honestly, it didn't take much comedic genius to make this funny because the guy made a clown of himself. You know what I'm saying? So, and I get it. At the end of the day, bro, we're Christians. I hear that. I get that. But, you know,
Ugh. Yeah, my favorite part was the Enema Elish stuff. And he runs through the whole breakdown and he's like, "So what's the similarity?" And he goes, water from water."
yeah, no, yeah, bro. It was bad. It was bad. It was really, really bad. Honestly, bro, it just, it's terrible,
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna go on Arthur's channel right now, brother Nick, if you wanna head over there and talk to him, because he did the review,
Mhm.
and I wanna poke his mind a little bit, because he was the one that did the review.
Yeah, yeah, I saw some of it.
Yeah, so I wanna ask him stuff from a scholarly standpoint. So everybody, I'm gonna go over to a channel, and you don't have to do anything. So for the people that are here, I'm gonna go over to Arthur's channel, and maybe Nick will pop in as well, and we'll continue this conversation over there. So for all of you guys that are here, I'm gonna go to not Nick's. I'm gonna go to Arthur's channel, and I haven't been there in some time. So everybody, just hold on, and I'm gonna take you guys there. So I saved it. If you guys want to beat me there, well, as soon as I end this live stream, it's gonna redirect you guys there. As soon as I end this live stream, it's gonna redirect you guys there. So, but this is that. All right, so that's the link. And I'm gonna call in over there. I'm gonna call in. So Arthur's already live. I'm gonna be over there momentarily. Okay, so
All right, I'll catch you over there.
yeah, just call in now if you can, because I'm gonna make sure I get everybody over there.
All right.
Let Arthur know what I want to talk about. So
Okay.
you get there. All right, man. See you.
Yep.
All right. All right. Let me text Arthur now so he doesn't get caught blindsided. All right. So I'm going to send it right now, fellas. I'm going to send it right now. This is his channel. So everybody, you can head down over there and as soon as I end this live stream, everybody should be headed over there. So when I end it, it should automatically send you guys there. So as soon as you guys get there, make sure to drop a like. God bless you guys. So click that link. I will be there.